You've got Skip coming to you live from Los Angeles. Let me fix. There we go. We still going? Yeah, I think we're live.
You're on.
Okay, we're good. I am soul crushed. I am devastated. I have been annihilated down to my soul watching what used to be my Dallas Cowboys attempt to play football, especially at home. Please understand, I've been doing this a long time. I love this football franchise because I went to my first game when I was 10 years of age. My uncle Jim Bell said, I'm going to take you to a pro football game. And I said, I want to go see the only team I could see on television in those days in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the St. Louis Cardinals. It was all I had. But there was this expansion team in Dallas, played at the old Cotton Bowl, where they still obviously play Texas, Oklahoma. And I said, I want to see my Cardinals. And I walked in and sat down in some really bad upper deck seats, 10 miles from the field. And I looked down upon those stars on the helmet and on the shoulder pads in those days. And I said, I want me some of that. I want that. I want metallic blue. I want silver. I want white. I want those Dallas Cowboys. And I was hooked to the bottom of my soul in a quarter. They had a little sawed-off quarterback playing in those days named Eddie LeBaron, 5 feet 7 inches tall, and I was hooked. And I was there for the Super Bowls, and I know what it felt like and tasted like, and what it meant to savor the Dallas Cowboys doing what they were made to do, which is dominate the world. I know what that felt like when Roger Staubach was the quarterback. I got to know Roger really well in his playing days. I was there for the end of Tom Landry and obviously for the beginning of Jimmy and Jerry. And I know Troy Aikman. I keep in touch with Troy Aikman. I know Emmitt Smith. I worked closely with Michael Irvin. I know what all that felt like and tasted like and how it went down. I know what it meant. I know what it felt like in my hands to hold it. Dallas Cowboys, America's team, dominating America. I know what that was. Trust me. I know the first Super Bowl, and I know the first Super Bowl victory over the Dolphins, and I was there for Super Bowl 10, first Super Bowl I covered against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I was definitely there for Super Bowl 13. Again, we lost both times to the Steelers, but they were the team of the 70s, but we were right there with them. We hung in with them because we were the Dallas freaking Cowboys. And Jerry and Jimmy revived what had fallen on hard times. Rome had fallen under Coach Landry. I wrote 3 books about what happened. God's Coach, The Boys, and Hellbent. I was there when Jimmy and Jerry together revived and rebuilt Rome. And it was right, and it was real. And Troy was real. He was a real live Dallas Cowboy quarterback. And Michael was a real live clutch number 88 playmaker. And Emmitt Smith was one of the greatest running backs ever because you just couldn't get him on the ground. It was the greatest offensive line I have ever seen. And it was a Jimmy coach defense, Dave Wanstead coach defense, that made nothing but big plays at big moments because they were the Dallas Cowboys. I know it. I felt it. I got it. And for me to have to sit and watch yet another home game, that's 6 in a row I've had to watch, going back to last year in the playoff game, in which the Dallas Cowboys have trailed by 20 or more points at home in Jerry World, which is now Scary World, on the national stage. That's 6 straight games. The record was 5. No team in NFL history had ever trailed 5 straight home games by 20 or more points at the end of the game. No, never happened before, and my team did that because my team in the last 5 home games had allowed an average of 40 points a game and lost by an average score of 40-18. That's incomprehensible. It's unfathomably wrong, and it's all about Jerry Jones because time has passed him completely by. He is gone, Joe Biden. It is Jerry Biden, and somebody needs to relieve him of his duties and just let him sit back and watch from afar and enjoy it from afar. But nobody in his family is going to do that. His son Stephen, his son Jerry Jr., they're not going to do that. In part because Jerry just won't allow it. Jerry owns the franchise. He operates the franchise, and so he operates my life. He controls my existence. And I keep saying, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to become a Tampa fan because I love Baker Mayfield. And it's just not the same. And then I say, I'll become a Green Bay fan, like Lil Wayne. Give me one of your jerseys. I'll take a Jordan Love jersey because I love Jordan Love. How can you not? And it's just not the same. My heart, my self-worth is invested in the Dallas Cowboys. And I have to watch that again tonight. I really believed with all my heart and soul all day long that tonight would be a little bit different. And it wound up Houston 34, Dallas 10 at home on Monday Night Football for all the world to see. We all had to watch it, and the world got to watch it because the world hates the Dallas Cowboys. And it's almost like they've become unhateable because they're so bad you can't even hate it. You can laugh at it, but you can't hate it anymore because we don't qualify for hate. We're not good enough to even be hated anymore. We're just pathetic from start to finish because we have a pathetic head coach who is simply the worst motivator in the history of coaching. I'm not in the history of coaching. Mike McCarthy, please drop the Mike McCarthy. He's still the head coach. And if nothing else, Jerry Jones could just throw us a little bone tomorrow. He could just please drop the Mike McCarthy out of his misery, put us out of our misery, and just send him home. Just give us that. Give us just a little bit of glimmer of new, just something different. Please, Jerry. It's pathetic. We keep getting blown out at home. At home. It's one thing. Remember, just last year, we'd won like 16 straight home games. And now this has happened because Jerry Jones fiddled through the offseason while Rome burned. It just burned to the ground. And at least I kept telling you so. All through the offseason, I said, no. Philadelphia is getting way better. We're getting a little worse because we did nothing. And we were down 27-0 in the first half of a playoff home game to the Green Bay Packers, the youngest team in the playoffs, a 2-seed versus the 7-seed Packers. We're down 27-0, and we were down 48-16 early in the fourth quarter. That's just wrong. That's rotten to the core. And then what did Jerry do? He brings back his puppet Mike because he loves him, loves to have beer and nachos with him every Friday, loves to pull the easiest puppet strings you've ever pulled of a bump on the log head coach who is now calling the plays. And I guess he used to be a pretty good play caller, offensive coordinator. I never can figure it out because he did have Aaron Rodgers in his prime. This is going back 14, 15, 16 years ago. But now he's supposed to be the CEO of the team. He's supposed to be the motivator of a team that just sleepwalks into every game and into every third quarter. Going into tonight, we had lost third quarters at home, 82-22. Think about that. How can he not be fired? You have to give us something, Jerry. Fire him tomorrow. Make Al Harris the head coach. I like Al Harris. I think he could make a pretty good head coach, but I'm just guessing because he's never been more than the secondary coach. He's 49 years of age. He played pro football at a high level. I just like the way he carries himself. I like the way the team respects him and honors him. Make Al Harris the coach. If you have to, recycle Mike Zimmer, just somebody different, because we're not competitive anymore. Do you understand? We can't compete. Do you realize what happened tonight? First of all, the game right away, it sounded like a Houston Texans home game. This is supposed to be Jerry. This is supposed to be your home crowd. And nobody wants to watch anymore, Jerry, because of you. You have ruined the Dallas Cowboys. Once you rebuilt them with Jimmy's help, I give you that. You contributed. I wrote a whole book about how much you should be valued as a GM in rebuilding a back-to-back Super Bowl winner, especially the first year. But then you got sideways with Jimmy, as was highly predictable, and you fired him because you wanted all the credit and he would give you no credit and no respect. A lot of that was on Jimmy. It still could have worked for another 2 years, I think, and you could have won 2 more Super Bowls, but no, you're just too proud. And yet, you did have one claim to fame, Jerry. You have drafted very well until lately. And I'm saying, wait a second. Mazi Smith, he got 2 calls tonight. One was a penalty, and one was, I think he got another penalty for fighting. He got 2 penalties. That's all. He's a bust. He's a bust. We don't have an anchor in the middle of the defensive line, Jerry, because you swung and missed on Mazi Smith. I said on draft night, I'm fearing you swung and missed on Tyler Guyton. They said he had a banged up shoulder and they yanked him, but he's been in and out of the lineup all year. He's a long-term project. He's a huge human being. I watched him closely at Oklahoma. I know what he is and what he is not. He's going to have a hard time pass blocking in this league. He's just too tall and long and slow-footed yet to be what you think that he was. And I can give you 2 other offensive linemen that I won't go into detail about, who are sitting right there for Jerry, but no, he goes Tyler Guyton because they know things that nobody else does. And they have drafted very well until lately, and I'm not seeing it. So think about how my soul got crushed when I'm just telling you, Dak is not it. I said the whole offseason, at least don't strap us into Dak. Don't stick us with Dak Prescott for the next 4 years, because he's shown you he's a 4th-round draft pick who in clutch circumstances, in big game playoff circumstances, he's just not it. You know and I know he's just not it. What is he, 2-5 in the postseason? It's just not good enough. And Jerry, you made him the highest paid player in the history of pro football because you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm too old to start over. No, you're not. Look what San Francisco did. They just start over. They say Jimmy G got us to the 4th quarter of a Super Bowl, up 20-10 with 8-9 minutes left in a Super Bowl. Not good enough because he fell apart. He unraveled right before your very eyes and handed Patrick Mahomes his first Super Bowl win. In San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Lynch, they just said, not good enough. We start over. We don't care. We'll go get Trey Lance. And I still like Trey Lance. But my soul's getting ripped out because just when I thought, okay, rise and shine, Trey Lance, make Jerry forget about Dak Prescott in the preseason. And he got his chances. And in the final preseason game, Trey Lance threw 5 interceptions against the Chargers. And I said, I can't defend that. Jerry will not be moved by that, obviously, one way or the other. He's going to stick with Dak and stick us with Dak. And he did. Just before the season started, he plunged again with Dak Prescott, and we are stuck. We are screwed with Dak Prescott. So I didn't have Trey Lance, and yet at least I thought when Dak went down, not wishing, I'm knocking on wood right now, I don't ever wish injury upon anybody, but when Dak did go down with this torn hamstring, had to have it surgically reattached. I thought he couldn't move, and he did that. That's just crazy. But God bless you. Speedy return. We're stuck with you. But I thought, okay, I love Cooper Rush because Cooper Rush was really, really good in his first start at Minnesota. I'm going back 3 years ago on a Sunday night. He outplayed Kirk Cousins at Minnesota and he had a clutch pass to Amari Cooper that won the game. And then he comes back the next year in game 2 against Joe Burrow in Cincinnati and outgunned Joe Burrow late, clutched up late, and then went to the Giants and they were down in the third quarter and he had back-to-back drives in which he total went 11 of 12 for 140 yards. I'm saying that guy can play. Doesn't have the biggest arm, but he can play. And then he won at the Rams and then he beat Washington at home. And he got off to a bad start at Philadelphia in the game of the year of that year. I'm going back now, we're going back to actually 3 years ago. But in that game at Philadelphia, he got off to a shaky start. One bad interception, one unfortunate accidental interception on a tip ball. But then here he came, and he got him all the way back to 20-17 early fourth quarter. I can't even recognize that Cooper Rush, although in that first little stint in the fourth quarter Atlanta when Dak got hurt, he was pretty good there. And by the way, tonight, he made some throws because he's always going to make some throws. He threw for 354 yards, but it took 55 tries. It's 32 of 55 for 354, and he made, 4 or 5 really big-time throws, one late to CD up the boundary. But he hasn't been the Cooper Rush of 2 years ago and 3 years ago because the team around him is horrible and getting worse by the snap, by the game. It just gets worse and worse and worse. The culture is rotten to the core. This team doesn't think it has a chance. It doesn't rise and shine around Cooper Rush, who can operate an offense with supreme efficiency and effectiveness and poise and command. And we saw glimpses of that tonight, but not enough. So what happens? Please drop the mic. McCarthy has them so ready to play on Monday Night Football that they come out and give up to the Texans, who had lost 3 out of their last 4. Waiting to be beaten tonight. I thought Dallas seriously had a chance even if it was a 7-point dog. And Houston just goes right down the field and Joe Mixon gets loose and pulls away from Trevon Diggs, and all of a sudden it's 7-0. And then I look up and we run a fake punt for the second time in 3 games. We run a fake punt that's got no chance. And I'm saying that's on Mike McCarthy. I know it's on Bones, and I got that. But Mike McCarthy has to sign off on it. Ultimately, the responsibility and the blame falls on the head coach for yet another failed punt that just makes us look silly. We look amateurish because we're not competitive at home. We're desperate, but we're not competitive. And all of a sudden, I look up and it's 14-0. And then Cooper Rush, CeeDee Lamb wasn't into the game tonight. I don't care what you say. It's like, I'm too cool for this. That's his body language, his attitude. And I love CD, but he got his big money. And now he's it, man. He's it. He's the best receiver in football. And he acts like it. His body language reeks of it. And tonight, he didn't want to stoop to have to compete with Cooper Rush at quarterback and the sorry offensive line. I mean, Cooper Rush was under siege the whole night long, and he's not the most mobile guy. And he took some shots and he took some sacks, but he was constantly harried and hurried. I mean, I don't know how he threw for 354. That was pretty impressive. But right away, he throws, and CD has a collision at 5 yards. I thought it was illegal contact, but they didn't call it. And of course, Cooper Rush throws to a spot because he throws on anticipation, and he throws it right to the safety, and it's a big interception. It was the only interception he threw, but he threw a couple of more balls that should have been picked. You know it, and I know it, because he didn't look like the Cooper Rush of 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And I'm going to remind you of this. Just remember, Tony Romo said live on CBS, as he was doing a Cooper Rush game, this is going back 3 seasons ago, he said in free agency after this year, Cooper Rush is going to get, and I'm quoting Tony Romo, a whole lot of money. Ditto. I thought the same, but he did not get a whole lot of money, and I don't know why. Not a big enough arm, not a big enough rep, not enough cachet. I don't know. And Jerry was able to sign him for high money for a backup quarterback, but he was able to keep him as the best backup quarterback in the league. And then he was able to, Jerry stole Trey Lance for a 4th-round pick, was what he got Dak for. And I thought, bully for you, way to go. Let's see what we got. And then he throws 5 interceptions in the last preseason game, and he's lost all of his confidence. And tonight, Cooper Rush started to lose his confidence and his poise, because how can you not? The offensive line is starting to be a liability. What I thought was going to be a strength is a liability. Tyler Guyton is not ready. Tyler Smith is beat up. He was out of the game late tonight. Zach Martin is a wreck. He's a Hall of Fame wreck, but he's still a wreck, and he's on his last legs, and he's in the tent late tonight and out of the game because this is the end for him. This is his swan song. Terrence Steele, they gave all the money to because he had one pretty good year. Danielle Hunter just ate him alive tonight. Terrence Steele had no chance, no shot against Danielle Hunter all night long, and Cooper Rush is doing this. And when Cooper Rush would cock to throw, somebody's slapping the ball, and it's up in the air, and it's one thing after another. It even came down to Brandon Aubrey. The one thing we have going for us is Brandon Aubrey. He's the greatest kicker in the history of kicking. I salute you, Jerry Jones. You or your staff went and found him in the USFL and said, let's go here. Just the way you got Cavante Turpin, who was the USFL MVP of the year before. We got the greatest kicker ever. And what happens? When it rains, it pours through the closed roof in Jerry World. It pours all over us because, think about this. Jerry Jones staged a fight in Jerry World on Friday night that 60 million people watched. And the truth was, Mike Tyson actually fought better than the Cowboys fought tonight at Jerry World on Monday Night Football. But the point was, Jerry did this. Jerry made a whole lot more money, off that fight and that night and that sellout. And what happened? They had to re-sod. They had to put down all new sod because all of it got pulled up for the fight crowd and the ring and Friday night and all the spectacle and all the trampling on the floor of Jerry World. So you put down new sod, and what happens near the end of the half? Brandon Aubrey goes to plant on a chip shot field goal. It's like an extra point of a field goal. It was 40 yards, but for him, he could kick it with his toe, with a single toe. And he slips, and he pushes it right, and it hits the right upright, no good. And it's so shocking that it just takes the life and heart out of the Cowboy fans who were actually in the stadium. It ripped my heart out at home, where I just threw up my hands and said, okay, then we're shot. We're dead. We got no hope tonight because the only thing I believed in, the only thing I trusted, just missed a field goal. It's impossibly bad. Then, you know what happened in the third quarter? Remember, we've been outscored 82-22, but Brandon Aubrey just effortlessly hit a 64-yard field goal. And there's a penalty called on Houston for an illegal head slap. I couldn't really see it, but whatever. Okay, I'll take it. And I can't blame Mike McCarthy for saying, okay, let's take the points off the board, although there's a golden rule, you just don't. It would have been, 20-13 at that point. Should have been 20-16 at that point. But he takes the points off, and we move down, and we wind up with a 4th and 2 from the 8. And it's an abomination. It reminded me a little bit of Lamar's play in the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game yesterday, where they went for the 2 to tie at the end of the game, and it was just an abomination play. Here we went again. I don't know what was happening. I don't know what CD was doing. With Tolbert, it looked like they were running the same route, like they were covering each other. That's how bad it was. And poor Cooper Rush rolls to the right, not the quickest guy, and he's looking, and his receivers are actually covering each other. Well, now what's he going to do? And he jukes and jabs and ducks and throws something up for grabs. I think it was Jalen Brooks had some chance to go up and get it. Nowhere. There's a penalty on the play, declined. It's an abortion of a play. It's just hard to watch, and it rips your guts out because we can't be this bad at home on Monday Night Football. At least this could have been a 10 a.m. I'm talking about Pacific. I'm out here in LA, or a 1 o'clock Eastern game. If it had just been a 1 o'clock Eastern game, I wouldn't be so ripped apart over it, because it wouldn't be that embarrassing, because only Cowboy fans, if they're even left, are watching. But think about what's happening. It's so bad for Cowboy fans. I knew it when they were out here at Oxnard in training camp. I kept seeing the pictures where nobody was going out to watch them anymore. How can you watch them? Jerry has run off his fan base. Doesn't he sit up there on his throne thinking, what have I wrought? What have I done? Is he so over the hill that he can't even process that it was his fault for doing nothing in the offseason? He didn't draft a running back. Rico Dowdle looked lost tonight. I mean, so did Cooper Rush. But come on, Rico Dowdle. I mean, a year from now, I won't even be able to remember who he was. It's going to be one of those where he just comes and goes. And really, Jerry, did you really believe going into this year that Ezekiel Elliott had anything left? There's one time when Zeke went in motion tonight, and he couldn't even trot fast in motion. And I'm saying, Jerry, you banked on him? You bet on him this year, and you really thought he was going to be your bell cow back? I think he really did. I've said this about Jerry. I spent hundreds of hours around Jerry as I wrote 3 books, and I like the heck out of him just as a guy. It's fun to be around. He's like quirky, smart in different areas. We're all made up of what you call little intelligences. You know, you're smart over here, but you're stupid over here. I know this, but I have no idea about that. It's like when Ernestine and I watch Jeopardy. It's just a matter of the categories. We're competing against each other. And if you give me Shakespeare, if you give me U.S. history, if you give me mountains and rivers, I'm going to wipe you out. But if you give me pop culture or food or chemistry, I don't know it. I don't know the element table. I don't know that. I don't know British lineage. I don't know that. But the point is that there's certain things you know and certain things you don't. And Jerry has had his strengths because I know Jerry, but he has so many weaknesses because, trust me, in all those hundreds of hours I talk ball with him, I don't think he really knows football. I know he played for a national championship team as a starting offensive guard at Arkansas, 64-65. I know that, and I believe that, and I've read about that, and I've talked at length to him about that. But when I talk football, he doesn't even have the right lingo for it, and the buck stops on his desk. It's like he can't even really talk ball the way you do, where you're talking with somebody where you get it and they get it and you know what you're talking about. Like there's a language you speak. I've interviewed 1,000, 10,000 coaches. I can talk football. I get football. I know X's and O's. I know what it is. I know how it works. And I can interview or interact with anybody on the deepest level of talking football. I spent 7 years, I guess it was, talking football with a Hall of Famer, arguing football with the Hall of Famer on Undisputed every single day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, Shannon Sharp. I did it because I know it. Jerry doesn't know it, yet the buck stops there. It falls into his lap, and right now it's just fallen through his lap onto the floor because there's nothing to like. I saw a few flashes from Micah Parsons, but he didn't close. He didn't finish. He's a little overhyped and a lot overrated to me because he's not taking games over the way he did for the first 2 years, and I don't know why. I think he's gotten a little too caught up in being a celebrity. It's like he and CD, well, you can't play that hard because we're too cool to play that hard, and this team's not very good, so they're like disassociating from the team. They're not taking it over and being the driving force of the team. They're just sitting back and saying, well, I'll give you a little bit, but I can't give you a lot because I'm better than all of you. I disassociate from you. I got to stay away from you. It's like LeBron occasionally in playoff fourth quarters where, no, I don't want to be around you. That time J.R. Smith lost his mind, lost track. LeBron says, no, I don't want to sit next to you because you just ruined it for me, after LeBron had been the one who should have taken the last shot after he got the switch of Steph onto him. 17-foot jump shot. He's been hot from outside. Just take the jump shot. Instead, he kicks it to George Hill and expects him to close the game. And he missed one of the 2 free throws. Okay, so that's LeBron. Now I disassociate from you guys. I'm better than you guys. CD was doing that all night long. I didn't like his body language. It's just hard for me to watch because it rips my guts out. And then it's hard for me to watch Jim Harbaugh last night because I love Jim Harbaugh. I think he's a little nutty. He's a mad scientist, but it works because he knows how to change a culture. He's so quirky and so oddball and so mad scientist that players are kind of in fear of him, but they respect him and they respond to him because he has taken the LA Chargers and turned them completely around. And I pounded the table for Jerry to fire McCarthy right after the Green Bay playoff game when it became clearly apparent Jim Harbaugh is escaping Michigan, escaping potential penalties that he was responsible for, and he was going back to the NFL where he had taken the San Francisco 49ers to 3 straight NFC championship games and 1 Super Bowl. And I said, Jerry, give it up, go get him. Whatever he wants in control, you got to give it to him. It's a Parcells situation, but Jim Harbaugh is in his prime of coaching. He's not over the hill. He's not worn out. He's on fire. He would have changed life in Dallas. You have to do that. You got to give him control, Jerry, and go along for a great ride. Look what he's doing with the Chargers. They're 7-3. That's it. I don't want Bill Belichick. He's over the hill and overrated. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to bash him as I always have, but just look at what happened once Brady left New England and tell me, just look at it. He played in 1 playoff game in the 3 years after Brady left, and they lost 47-17 at Buffalo, and they never forced Buffalo to punt the whole game. He's supposed to be a defensive genius. He got exposed. I don't want that. But the truth is, I would right now take Bill Belichick over Mike McCarthy or over, I keep reading this list of names, Ben Johnson, the coordinator in Detroit. I don't want Ben Johnson. What has he done? What one thing has Ben Johnson done to show you he'd make a great head football coach? He's a nerdy IBM type guy who calls plays for an extremely talented offense. Okay, if we want to bring him here as the coordinator, I'm down with it. But obviously he's not coming here as coordinator. He's going to come here wanting some control himself. He's never coached a down as a head coach. I don't trust him. He didn't play football. He's just some guy who happened to be at the right place at the right time. I'm sorry. If you want him as a play caller, go get him, but he's not coming here. Cliff Kingsbury, we saw him as a head coach. He's a much better coordinator. I don't want him. I don't want Joe Brady. He's right out of the same mold. This league eats itself alive because it keeps raising coordinators, offensive and defensive coordinators, to head coaches when they've never coached before. At least Jimmy Johnson had been a head football coach at Oklahoma State. He was the head coach at Oklahoma State and was pretty good against the juggernaut in Norman, Oklahoma. He did some things where you said, interesting. He's a CEO. He's a commanding officer. He is a natural-born leader. And then he goes to Miami and wins the national championship. He had done that. I know he was a college coach coming to pro football, but I knew he could be a head football coach. I don't know. Now I'm reading about Drew Petzing, the Arizona offensive coordinator. He's another guy. Went to some little school in New Hampshire, like the no scholarships, walked on, what's it called, Middlebury? I don't know what it is, but he walked on there, then he got hurt, never really played, stat freak, intern. How did he get to be this? And you want to make him the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? You're kidding me. That Liam Cohen, Baker's new coordinator, I don't know. He's a chip off the block of that long Shanahan line, obviously. I don't know. I need somebody real. Aaron Glenn does intrigue me, as I said about Al Harris. Aaron Glenn's from Texas, from Houston, played at Texas A&M, played a couple of years for the Dallas Cowboys, 52 years of age. I don't know. He's got some stature to him. when I watch him on the sideline, I think he could be a head coach, just the way D'Amico Ryans rose from coordinator to head coach. But still, you want a made man. You want somebody like a Jim Harbaugh, where you say, he's done it at the highest level. He's won everywhere he's been. He came within a blown pass interference call on a pass thrown by Colin Kaepernick of winning the Super Bowl against his brother John. That's how close he came to winning a Super Bowl. The flag should have been thrown on the pass thrown by Colin Kaepernick. And Jim Harbaugh was the one who said, I'm going with Colin Kaepernick. I'm going to bench Alex Smith, the first pick in the draft, and I'm changing horses in midstream. I'm going with this kid from Nevada, Reno, and the rest is history, almost history. Okay, so that's Jim freaking Harbaugh. He's what you need to revive the Dallas Cowboys. You don't need another puppet coach, or this will just keep on happening. It got so bad at the end of the game tonight, I just couldn't watch it. We had a late 12 men on the field penalty on defense because all we could do was screw up and fight after the whistle. All we could do was let them gash us. Joe Mixon, he's taunting us. He's shaming us in our own building. He's high stepping in for the early touchdown. I guess that was his second. And he's doing too small. Just shaming us. He's ridiculing us in our own building, because that's where it's come for the Dallas Cowboys. That's who we are. And now it's one injury after another. We don't have Jordan Lewis tonight. Then we lose Jake Ferguson. And no, Cooper Rush was not the savior I hoped he would be, because I just hoped that Cooper Rush would have one lighted up game like he did at Minnesota and against Joe Burrow at Jerry World. That was, remember, on Sunday Night Football. So he had 2 Sunday nights and then a big Monday night at New York. I wanted him to have one of those nights tonight, just to shame Jerry Jones, just to say, yeah, you just made Dak Prescott the highest paid player in the history of pro football. And now look at this guy. He's performing at a higher level than Dak ever thought about. I just wanted that to happen one time, because it just would do my heart good. It would make my heart hurt just a little bit less. Instead, I'm listening to Houston Texans fans take over Jerry World. It came to that. And now what? Do we go back to Trey Lance again? Because we're 3-7. I thought maybe if we won tonight, 4-6, you'd start to say, maybe Cooper Rush could get hot. Maybe we could go on a little bit of a streak and at least make it interesting. But now we have to go to Washington. They're everything we're not. They've started over with our recent defensive coordinator, who's become their head coach and is coaching his tail off. Dan Quinn is the real deal. He should be the Dallas Cowboy head coach. He could do it. He was up 28-3 on New England in a Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying. That's a made man. You know he can do this. And Washington just said, they got brain trust. They got brain power. They've got Magic Johnson involved. And their brain trust said, well, let's go get Dan Quinn. If Jerry doesn't want to keep him, let's go get him. And it was a shrewd move. And look at them now. That whole organization under Josh Harris, I know Josh a little bit, he's strong. He's smart. He's got deep pockets. They're just doing it all the right way. And they scored with Jaden Daniels. They scored. They got a quarterback. Philly's got a quarterback with Jalen Hurts. He's a gamer. He's a baller. He's a winner. He's a leader. He's everything to me that Dak is not. And Dak might be a little more talented, actually, than Jalen is. But I'll take Jalen any day or night. So that's what we have to contend with now. Philadelphia did everything in the offseason we didn't do. We didn't fix any of what was broken that was exposed against Green Bay. We didn't fix any of it. We just said, no. The jury's like as delusional as any Cowboy fan about how good his team was. And now we're paying for it because it's all-time miserable. And it's unfixable because you're stuck with Dak. And now we have to go play the Commanders in their backyard, and they will they will look forward to humiliating us because, trust me, that city takes this Dallas-Washington rivalry way more seriously than Dallas takes it. They will be ready for us. They will annihilate us. I guess against, what's his name, Danny DeVito or whatever his name now, they went to the backup quarterback, the Giants. He'll probably come beat us on Thanksgiving, but you'd think we could win that game. Then we get Joe Burrow, the best quarterback in all of football. That's on a Monday night. Then we go to Carolina. That's probably a coin flip right now whether we can win that game. We might as well just lose them all, get the best draft pick we can get. And then we get Tampa Bay. That's a Sunday night. Baker and company coming coming to Dallas. Then we have to go to Philadelphia. They already embarrassed us at Jerry World. And then we have to finish with Washington at home. It's going to be a long, hard couple of months to finish. And it's all Jerry's fault. It's just to the point where I keep trying to get back up for it. And today I was actually up for watching this game because I thought we would compete and I thought we would win, steal it. I thought Cooper Rush would have a hot night, a Cooper Rush Memorial night, and we lost 34-10. At least we didn't give up our average of 40 points in the previous 5 home games, but still 34-10. We lost by more than 20 again for a 6th straight game. These are the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, trust me on this because I became a big fan of the expansion Dallas Cowboys in their first year. They were better than this at home. They were more competitive. They can't compete. And I'm sorry. I apologize on Jerry's behalf to all you Cowboy fans who are still with me out there for having to endure this. It's just so wrong and it's just so shameful. And the ultimate fix is that Jerry Jones has to be removed. Seriously, he has to be removed. And it's not a government office, so we can't vote him out. There's no election. Somebody in that family, starting with Stephen Jones, or maybe it's Charlotte Jones, at some point they're going to have to pull Daddy aside and say, Daddy, it's just time. It's just time. You got to give this up to somebody else because your whole legacy is crumbling right before your very eyes. It's getting so bad that Jerry's going to be remembered forever and ever only for this. Our last memory of Jerry's going to be the worst memory of Jerry, and he doesn't deserve that. Please, Jerry, if you're listening, if you're watching, if you're hearing, there's no shame. Just give it up. At least give us something tomorrow. At least fire McCarthy. Just get him out of our sight so we don't have to watch him anymore. Bump on a log on the sideline, looking down, calling plays that never seem to work. At least do that, Jerry. I'm sorry. I forgive me for just pouring my guts out tonight, but this is just so disgusting that it's just torn my heart and my soul out. And yet, I'm sure I'll watch him at Washington. And I'm sure I'll work up some delusion that they can somehow steal that game, maybe with Trey Lance at quarterback. That's just the way I'm made. Forgive me. This is Skip signing off from Los Angeles after yet another Dallas Cowboy home humiliation.